let me, okay. The exercise today is to determine the percentage of available chlorine in the given bleaching powder sample. As you know, as you will study in water chemistry, bleaching powder is one of the disinfectants, and its chlorine content is effective. Some hypochlorous acid it forms in water, and that is a germ killer. And but what is effect available chlorine? It is the amount of chlorine which is released when bleaching powder reacts with H plus ions or acid. So that is not the percentage of Cl2 as in the formula. It is the amount which is released when it reacts with. So first you have to write the reaction. We will see some theory before it, if you have not cared to go through it. I'm sure some good students must have revised it before coming to this class. So straight away, I'm going to share the PowerPoint to explain this experiment with the help of PowerPoint, and that would be from my desktop. That is this. I hope you can see this. Please respond.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. So to determine the percentage of available chlorine in the supplied sample of bleaching powder, you see theoretical percentage of chlorine which may be present in bleaching powder is this one. This 1 mole of bleaching powder gives you 1 mole of Cl2. So according to formula CaOCl2 2H2O, 163 grams of sample should give you 71 grams of available chlorine. Therefore, percentage available chlorine is 71 divided by 163 into 100, 43.5%. Theoretical should be this, but we will see more how to determine it. We carry out a iodometric titration is used to, iodine iodometric titration in which potassium iodide is used. You know it. Iodometric, how it differs, iodometric titrations differ from iodometric, that it is indirect generation of iodine in this case using potassium iodide. So overall reaction is given in your manual is this this reaction. Oxychloride anion is the anion present in the bleaching powder sample. It is independent anion, OCl minus. Remember, it is a unique anion among many anions you may be aware of. So this is to elaborate this more. CaOCl2 reacts with 2H plus to give you calcium 2 plus plus Cl2. Now Cl2, this Cl2 is available chlorine which is released when bleaching powder is reacted with any acid. Then this Cl2 will react with potassium iodide component, and then iodine is reduced, and Cl minus ion would be formed, and this released iodine is titrated against sodium thiosulfate or hypo, and finally it again in this case hypo is thiosulfate forms the S4O6 anion, and iodide is again free. So this is the complete sequence of, I mean, these are reactions which are central in this titration. Details of this you are supposed to know. So now coming back to procedure, a video will be shown later on about procedure, but let us explain. Uh, Let me explain you what is how you go about carrying out. First and foremost task in this is to get a exact amount of 1.5 gram bleaching powder in the porcelain dish. You take, weigh it, and after weighing correctly, you transfer, rub this bleaching powder with flat end of the test tube after adding little amount of distilled water until a thick paste is formed. So bleaching powder is not soluble in water as such. So what we will use, we can do, we can make a suspension of it, not the pure uh, mm, solution, but a suspension only. So aim is to get it in any form, the amount which we can easily titrate. So just by rubbing it and making a fine, very fine powder with little amount of water, a paste, then with the amount we this that bleaching powder is transferred into a volumetric flask with the help of funnel and glass rod. Now transfer the contents of the dish to a 250 ml volumetric flask, and then transfer about 200 ml of the suspension in a 250 ml. Once you prepare a standard solution by a solution, you can say, not is, it is not a standard of course, but here uh, as far as possible the amount 1.5 gram should be exactly weighing, because we cannot take third reading after transferring. Since we have already made a paste of it, we cannot go back to take the weight of the porcelain dish and then subtract the third weight from the second weight to find out the exact amount gone. Here, everything is as far as weight is concerned, of which is taken in the titration is 1.5 gram, assuming it has maximum of it has gone into making solution. So what we will do now, we will transfer it in beaker to easily pipette out. For to make, pipetting easy, since volumetric flask has a long neck, it is you cannot put the pipette there and at least once you can take out maybe, but not comfortably later on. So the whole amount, after just shaking it properly in a circular movement of the you transfer it in a beaker. Beaker, as you know, is provided to keep anything extra. So where exact volume is not required. So roughly you take out maximum amount, say 200 ml from the beaker, and shake it with glass rod. Then with the help of pipette, which is whose volume is 25 cc normally in the lab. So 25 cc you will pipette out, put it in a titration flask. You will add 2 ml of glacial acetic acid and 1 milliliter of potassium iodide solution, resulting in a deep brown color. You will get a deep brown color. Now, after additions of these reagents like acetic acid and Ki, you will now titrate it. So immediately titrate the liberated iodine after with the standard hypo solution. Hypo solution you have already filled in the burette, whose strength is provided to you. It is 7 gram per liter of strength. Strength is already we have taken in this experiment. Otherwise, what is the procedure? you will find many videos. I will give you a link of a video, YouTube video, in which your hypo solution, in which it has been shown that you can standardize the hypo solution with standard copper sulfate. So anyway, this here in our lab, it is you are provided a hypo solution which is whose strength is provided to you. You need not to prepare it and standardize it. So you will, when you add hypo from the burette in your titrating flask, so that slowly the deep brown color will turn yellow, and then faint yellow. Faint yellow is like straw color. Straw is, very a grass which is almost colorless, very light yellow. So you have to see that it assumed the deep brown color totally has not disappeared, but some yellowish tinge remains. At this stage, you will stop adding hypo, and then you will add the indicator, which is important in this titration. Now comes the indicator. An indicator is a starch. About 8-10 drops of starch solution is added, and then your titration solution becomes deep blue in color after addition of starch. So then you will add, finally you will add few cc's, the amount of hypo from the burette, till you get the point at which blue color just disappears. So colorless solution, that is the end point. Repeat the process till you get two concordant with hypo solution. Concordance, have you understood what is concordant reading? Suppose we have in first run we have got 25.5. Reading is 25.5 cc in burette. Then we will on repeating it, we have got 25.4. Then again we will have to take another third run of the titration, repeating everything from the beginning, starting from the very beginning, pipetting out 25 cc your bleaching powder suspension, and then adding KI, and then so on. So concordant reading is is called that reading which is continuous, that is same, and obtained in repeated experiments just after that. But if it is not, you are not getting a concordant reading. Every time you are getting a different reading in different titration runs, you can take any two readings which are similar at any point of time. Maybe first and fourth reading may be same, so you can use that. But remember, in titration, never ever average is taken. Never average is taken. Like you have taken 3 readings and you will take average. No, it is not the. It would be completely wrong as far as concordant reading is concerned. Concordant means consecutive, but if it is not consecutive, you can take any 2 readings which are same. Remember. So this is about the reading. Whatever reading you get, you will use in calculation, and calculation is the two. These things, these data are already given. Strength is already given. Equivalent weight of the hypo, which will be used in calculation, is given, and you will write the experiment in observations. You will write the weight of empty porcelain dish, plus weight of porcelain dish plus bleaching powder. First, weighing observation. Since the first part of any experiment in volumetric exercise is weighing, so weighing you have to write clearly. That shows you have actually performed the titration. Otherwise, I mean, that is the essential part of procedure. So weight of bleaching powder W2 minus W1. Suppose this one is volume of hypo solution used for 25 cc of bleaching powder suspension. You will make a table as given in the manual, and then you will calculate. Suppose your reading is 35.3. You see, this is the table you have to make. This kind of table you have to make. The starting point, in bracket, write burette. End point, in bracket, write burette. Volume used, ml. On top of the table, it is written that it is the volume of hypo solution used for 25 cc of bleaching powder suspension. Suspension, concordant value 35.3. First time, in first run, you got 35.4, then second run, 35.3, and third run, 35.3. So 35.3, you are getting consecutive and same. So 35.3 is concordant value. So I hope you have understood what is a concordant value. And so we will go on. This formula of percentage available chlorine has been the final, I mean, it is the final formula based on the detailed calculations of finding out the strength of the hypo solution, etc. Everything, and directly it gives you percentage of available chlorine directly. It should be normally on storage, the available chlorine on storage of bleaching powder over a long period of time, it loses its ability to disinfect, of course. That's why it is necessary to necessary to find out its available chlorine before use all the time. So the percentage of available chlorine in supplied sample of bleaching, you will write result in that is an essential part of any exercise. I will not repeat all these things again in future. Remember, the percentage of available chlorine in supplied bleaching powder sample you will write is from the calculation. Suppose it is 25%, 18%, 17%. Obviously, it would be less than calculated percentage. 43 something is this, and so that is I think the first part. One thing which is not mentioned in manual, I will just go on to just a moment. I will go to another presentation. Can you see this? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Can you? Okay. Now, this thing is not available in your manual. Those who are attending this class would be, I mean, it is something you will not find in normally in literature at your level. So how does iodine turn a starch blue? That is the question. What is the role? What is the starch? And why does iodine turn a starch blue is explained here in this slide. Using iodine to test for the presence of a starch is a common experiment. A solution of iodine and potassium iodide in water has a light orange-brown color. If it is added to a sample that contains a starch, such as the bread pictured, in the next slide, color changes to a deep blue. But how does this color change work? See, this is the blue color it is amylose. So starch is amylose, sugar, kind of sugar. So it turns blue. Starch is a carbohydrate found in plants. It consists of two different types of polysaccharides that are made up of glucose units, which are connected in two different ways. One is the linear amylose, and the other is the branched amylopectin, pictured. You will see this. And then amylose is the compound that is responsible for the blue color. Its chain forms a helix-shaped structure, and iodine, it is a helix-shaped structure, and iodine can be bound inside this helix as shown in the picture below. So what happens? The colors are caused by so-called charge transfer complexes formed here between molecular iodine is not readily soluble in water, which is why potassium iodide is added. Together, they form polyiodide ions of the type In minus. For example, I3 minus, I5 minus, I7 minus, etc. So chain, it is a linear chain of iodide ions in different molecular atomic combinations. The negatively charged iodide in these compounds acts as charge donor, the neutral iodine as a charge acceptor. So between the complex is formed between negatively charged iodide and the neutral iodine, and charge transfer takes place. Electrons in such charge transfer complexes are easy to excite to a higher energy level by light. So it is all why do we change the color in anything? It's a very rich chemistry. Why color chemistry is a very specialized area. You will study in your fourth semester for chemical engineers. If you are going to specialize as a chemical engineer, you will study some these things in detail. Why you see substances as colored? Why indicators, which bring about, what is so special about the indicators, that is the reagents which help us carry out any volumetric titration, is, they change color. Why? What is the basic fundamental mechanism of that? We are not going into that right now. I'm leaving it to you to, explore it yourself. That would be the part of the Viva Voce. If I would like to ask you later on. The light is absorbed in the process, and its complementary color is observed by the human eye. So the exact structure of the polyiodides inside the amyloid helix is still not clear. The amylose iodine complex is amorphous. It does not form ordered crystals. That's why it is difficult to explore the structure by X-ray, because since it is not a ordered crystal, single crystal, it is not. It is soft in nature. It is amorphous in nature. That's why its structure is exactly not known. But it has been, conclusively proven that it is the presence of, this charge transfer complex within the, within amylose units is responsible. It has been proposed that the species inside the helix are repeated I3 minus or I5 minus units. So in the case of the aqueous solution of polyiodides, the absorption of the different species lead to an overall brownish color. Once amylose is added, it forms another charge transfer complex. Here the amylose acts as a charge donor and the polyiodide acts as an acceptor. Again, further complexation. within the iodine and iodide ions, and further iodide ions form complexes, charge transfer complex with amylose. This complex absorbs light of a different wavelength than polyiodide, and the color turns dark blue. Finally, this is the most accurate explanation which can be given. It is not simple. We simply, it is, I mean, it is told directly that the final color, I mean, when you add a starch in iodide solution, you find a blue color. So that is how this blue color gets developed. And on addition of further thiosulfate, the disappearance of blue color is actually endpoint in this titration. So latest literature in 2016 proves that this is the case. This is the explanation given in previous slides is the most relevant explanation known till today. In 2016, there was a study which was published in international reputed journal, Ingvante Chemie, a Wiley publication, and it is the pyrroloperylene iodine complex in this study was studied, which was crystalline in nature, and its structure using X-ray crystallography shows that polyiodide chains are present between stacks of pyrroloperylene. It turned out that the material containing these chains absorbs light at very similar wavelengths to the amylose iodine complex, which supports the hypothesis that similar polymeric chains form in the iodine test for starch. So that is the again I will stop sharing, and I will come to the class now. And if possible, will show you a video which is if it supports. Just a moment. Let me just. Okay. Now that